Hello, and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. And today I want to talk about something I kind of touched base with in a different podcast episode, and I was just like, ooh, that's a whole topic on its own. And it's about emotional and physical baggage. So what I mean by that is like clutter, and then there's just like those, those beliefs and thoughts and stuff that, are floating around in your head. And if you slow down enough, you're like, wait a second, that's not my thought, or at least it's not my thought or belief anymore. Because we change, we evolve, things happen. And if you're like me at all and you're on your personal self-love journey, or just whatever you want to call it, self-discovery, or just, on this path of bettering yourself, or just really just becoming your best self, then you'll notice these things a little bit more. One of the things is so let's talk physical, like clutter baggage right now. We moved just, at the beginning of September, and we had, and I'm sure I probably shared this in another episode, is we had 2 years where my son didn't sleep. And we just kept putting things down there. Because here's the thing, I hate clutter. I hate seeing things laying around, and it drives me insane. But I have 2 kids, like a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. So we, there's toys, there's things around. But those 2 years, anytime that we had company over, or I just didn't want to see the clutter anymore, I'm just like, here, let's put it down here. And in between that time, I also had 2 surgeries. So I actually didn't go down there for a long time. And we were in the middle of a renovation when I was pregnant with my son. So it was crazy. Anyways, so we knew it was there. And actually, it was this thing that was constantly in my head. Like my to-do list, it was always there. I always wanted to deal with it because it was my office space that I was redoing. And we just put so much junk down there. And it was becoming overwhelming to the point where I just avoided it at all cost. Well, come the fall of last year, so in September, I was toying with the idea of moving. And then throughout the winter months, it really became clear that we had to move. It just wasn't healthy anymore. I wasn't sleeping through the winter. It was a mess there. Anyways, we finally got clear that we had to move. That was a big thing. But our house was not even close. And then you throw in schools got shut down. And anyways, my husband and I pretty much forced our hand to have to deal with this mess. And let me tell you, we are so much lighter. It felt so good to just release all that. I can't tell you how many trips we took to thrift stores. How many things, it just was so much stuff that we didn't want or need anymore. It was incredible. I had boxes of baby clothes still down there. It was insane. Now, maybe your experience is not as messy, and maybe you're like, oh my goodness, Jody, you are a mess. And maybe it just makes your clutter look a little less cluttery, and that's great. Anything I can do to help. The thing is, clutter, big or small, is always there. It's always in the background. It's there even though you don't see it. Like I said, it was always on the back of my mind. Anytime we had free time, I was like, oh, we got to get down there. We got to do this. And always something better came, because who wants to clean when you can have fun, right? But doing that opened up so much space. Now we're here. Unpacking was so much better. Yes, there's some still, as I'm recording this, hopefully by the time it airs, I will be done unpacking. But like I said in a different podcast, we let go of some furniture and different things. So we're actually trying to look for things before we can unpack some boxes. Because my thing is, everything needs a home. That's a big one this time, is everything needs to have a home. So we know where everything is, just so we don't, pick up things we don't need anymore, kind of thing. So letting that go feels so good. Now, I'm not saying you need to move to let it go, but I'm telling you, my husband and I needed to move to let it go. We had to be forced, and it's just how we operated. And yeah, it feels so good. So let's talk a little bit about emotions, though, emotional baggage. So it can be events that have happened from your childhood, from, a month ago, a week ago. There's so much going on right now in the world that we can feel pretty emotional. There could be things that you don't even know is like you're taking in, and it can weigh you down. Recently, I had some anger, and and then it's not about beating myself up. It's about like, whew, why am I so angry? Where is this coming from? And it was really interesting because I read somewhere it's anger. It just means that somebody's suffering. So when somebody's angry, they're suffering. I'm like, whew, where am I suffering? So I have to unpack a lot of my own things, and I won't get too much into it because I'm still working on it myself. And there's just still stuff there, but it does come to like the move. There's some really traumatizing events that happened within our move that I don't want to share because it involves like third party peoples, and I just need to let that go. But we do hang on to things. Like whenever I have those feelings, like obviously I need to do the work. But when I do have those feelings, it's not about beating myself up for being angry. It's about, oh, I am angry. Or like if I have anger towards the people that were involved with the situation, I try to send them love. And it can be so hard to do, especially if these people, like if anybody really hurt you, if you're dealing with some major trauma. I really do encourage people that have gone through childhood abuse or trauma and things like that to talk it out with a professional. It's really important to have that because those things run deep, and it's really, really important. So the thing is, the little triggers can come up to set you off. And oh yes, back to sending love. So it's just about like, okay, sending that person love, because the thing is, the feelings I'm having will never get back to the person I'm having feelings about. It's just hurting me internally. It's anger and any emotion really, especially the heavy, dark, deep ones, linger in your body. Just like happiness though. Like if you're happy, like if I'm smiling while I talk on the podcast, you feel it, you hear it, and it's an energy, and my body feels it too. But then when I hang on to the anger or sadness or any of those things, you have anxiety over something or worry, those show up in your body too over time. So it's about releasing them. So I'm a big fan of journaling and definitely talking to people and really just letting it out, because keeping emotions in just really wears on your body. When I was doing the empowerment coaching training, we followed, like a lot of the stuff was with Louise Hay. And if you're not familiar with her work, she does a lot about self-love. And then she also does a lot of affirmations. And she even has a book that she wrote like years and years ago. And it's about like you can heal your life. So it's really incredible. The things we say to ourselves, the emotions we hang on to really do have an effect on our bodies. So it is incredible. So whatever you might be hanging on to, a thought, a belief, an event that has occurred, maybe you're replaying it over and over and over in your head. Maybe you're losing sleep over it. You just can't let it go. Then that's it affecting your sleep, which I have now learned that sleep is like the top priority to anything: weight loss, mental health, just overall like fitness of your body. Because if you're not sleeping, then you're not eating, top notch. You're not, your energy levels aren't there. Just so much can slip through the cracks when you're not sleeping. So if an event or something that somebody said to you is affecting your sleep, then it's like, whoa, you got to really nip that in the butt. So, because then you're not going to be your best self. You're not going to show up the best of your abilities. So yeah, the biggest thing is like, talk with somebody. Talk to somebody you trust though, like somebody that isn't going to judge you, because that's the hardest part. You don't want to come out of this and feel like somebody's judging you for having these thoughts or things like that. It's really important to have like a safe spot, a safe person to talk to. And journaling is a big thing. If you're feeling tied to an event, a situation, an emotion, you might not be angry like I am and you have no idea what's going on. Because here's the thing, like, we can let things get the best of us, and we might not know why. And then the other thing is, the more I've journaled, the more I've worked on myself, and I even helping clients help myself sometimes. Like, it's amazing. You get clearer. But the more I do the work on myself and I really get down to my triggers and why my emotions come up like that, the more I can see it faster. Or if I can't, like if you have like, that anger rage, like you just don't see anything but like what you're angry about. But then you breathe for a second and then things pop up, like that thing where I just read about, like, anger is somebody suffering. I'm like, right, Jody, you're suffering. Like, it's about opening it enough to understand, and it's really incredible. So the more you do something, it's like the more you focus on your self-love journey, the more, like, if you fall off the horse kind of thing or fall off the wagon, you can get back on faster. The more you do something, the better you get. It's just like riding a bike, right? The first time you learned, it was really, really hard. And then maybe you haven't been on a bike for years, but you get back on, it might be a little wobbly, but it's easier and easier as you do it. So same with everything. And it's just, working with your emotions, releasing them and letting them go. It all takes time, but the more you do it and the more you talk to somebody else or you journal and you find what works for you, because that's a big one, the easier it will get. I'm not saying you won't get it. Like, I have emotions too. Like I said in another podcast, it makes us human. If you're not feeling anything, then it's maybe like, oh, what kind of blocks do you have up? Because you're human. You're going to feel things. We're meant to feel things. And, we can sometimes put barriers and walls up to not feel as much. And then they need to come down. I know, because I've put lots of walls up myself and barriers and, buried lots of things. And the longer you let them sit there, the harder they are to unbury and knock down. So take a deep breath and just know that you're not alone, that we all have emotions. I should say we all have clutter. I feel like a lot of people have clutter. Like, we still have, a little bit of clutter, but now that I've lived through the experience of having to let go a lot of stuff, we have learned our lesson. Now, we've only been here for a few months, or 2 months as I'm recording this, not even quite 2. By the time it airs, it will be 2. So we haven't had a lot of time to gather clutter. However, it's still very fresh in our minds that, it's easier to let something go the moment you realize you don't need it anymore versus hanging on to it for years. And that's both for physical clutter and things and emotional. And the other thing I just want to touch base on really quickly is physical things can also include people. Now, I'm not going to go crazy into it, but sometimes we hang on to people in our lives just because they've always been in our lives, or we feel that we owe them something, but maybe every time you hang out with them, they just bring you down. And I'm not saying you have to let everybody that you have those feelings out of your life, but it's just understanding how you feel after hanging out with people. And then if you always want, because we have family, like, family might make you feel like that too. It's about setting healthy boundaries. So that's a whole different ballgame. I'm actually going to talk about that in December, because I think it's a very fitting time for when family get-togethers. Now, this year might look a lot different, but I feel like it's a good time to talk about boundaries and what to do when family, don't listen to them, or like what to do when you have a family member that just invades your personal space and things like that. So I'll talk about that in December, but just know that you can distance yourself or love somebody from afar as well. And they are included in that weighing you down kind of thing, because it's really incredible having all those things. They can really drop your energy levels. And without even knowing it, you might think it's like, oh, it's the things I eat, or even better, having those emotions pop up, or just knowing that you might have this cluttered area, it can make you want to grab, like, it might make you anxious or like stressed out that you have this, and then you eat. And then like eating certain foods, they also play a role in your energy. So it's just this whole big thing. So if you're finding your energy levels are low, like look at what you're hanging on to. Is there something you can let go? Is something weighing you down? If there is, it's time to release it. And it can be in a fun, happy-go-loving way. But it's like, do all things with love. So is it time to let something go? Trust me, I've been there, like definitely the decluttering part recently. It feels so good. So if you have even just a closet that needs to be organized and gone through, today's the day to do it. Yeah. And you'll feel so much better. Okay. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye for now.